Hey people, I just wanted to do a quick stream. I know I kind of put this off till tomorrow, but needed to go ahead and get this out of the way because I was like, it's the day before New Year's. Let me just go ahead and knock this out because this is actually going to be a pretty good stream. I love horror movies. I don't know about you guys out there in YouTube land, but I love horror. Horror is one of the greatest genres that's ever existed, and I love it. I love it blatantly. I just love it. So I thought I'd take a twist to something and then turn it on its head. So let me go ahead and turn this on real quick. Oh, okay. Well, anyways, neither here nor there. Let's continue on with the podcast. So the topic is feminism and the zombie apocalypse. And you're probably wondering, like, what does feminism and the zombie apocalypse have to do with each other? My whole point in making this together is to talk about things that people don't talk about, mainly feminists, or even this issue of feminism and how this wouldn't save us in a zombie apocalypse. Because when the zombie apocalypse hits, we're all screwed if we leave the women up to this. I'm just going to be honest with you. I mean, you know, this is going to be a totally fair, firm, and consistent assessment by me, yours truly. And a lot of this is if we leave women up to their own devices, if there's a zombie apocalypse, we are screwed. I know I just said it twice. Saying it again for extra effect. So we're going to get into this, and I'm going to be displaying the bad about what happened. This is just going to be bad. It's all bad. I don't see how it's not going to be bad because men run the infrastructure. Men run everything, but nobody ever thinks about this in the zombie apocalypse. Let's get started. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've all imagined what it'd like to live in a zombie apocalypse. And you know what? It's such an interesting topic to think about and talk about. So I've decided to list every single thing that you haven't considered in a zombie apocalypse in regards to feminism. I don't think anybody's ever tackled this topic like I'm going to, but it needs to be done. Hate to specify, but this is extremely important. So a lot of this is integral into talking about horror movies, and I'll talk about horror movie genres and how feminism would end us all. So I've decided to list every single thing you haven't considered about zombie apocalypse, starting with the fact that nature would actually be on your side, but against the feminist side. Zombie decomposition. Zombies can't maintain any tissue integrity or without blood circulation or cellular repair. You see these guys running in movies the whole time. In real life, this wouldn't happen. All of this would turn organs into soup. But let's just say that this zombie thing happens. Matter of fact, winter freezing. Men run the infrastructure at 87%. Women run the infrastructure at what? I would say 12, 13%. And if you cut that by half, 6% of them are doing secretary jobs. So when you talk about women doing construction work, labor jobs, sewage, everything like that, yeah, they're not in those fields. That would be an exception to the rule. So they would have to depend on men if a zombie apocalypse happened. 28 days later, actually acknowledge this reality when infected people starve to death. You see this, but who runs the cattle ranches? Who runs the factories of meat surplus, right? So if people are starving, women are going to be at the behest of men. I don't think that they're going to be surviving on their own accord if they don't run meat factories or any of this stuff. None of this would happen. So the rage virus is extremely interesting. We're going to dive deep into a lot of this lore and how feminism would doom us all. Let's get into this and add this to the stage real quick. So right now we have a woman running. This is from the movie Quarantine. Now this may not be a zombie, but this is infected. would be probably like a one-off, right? I would say that that's probably a one-off. Now, the rage virus and the infected people from the Quarantine movie, they're not exactly zombies, but they're infected. Who develops vaccines? Who's the main developer of vaccines and science and leading in these industries? Men. Men lead in all this. So in order for her to get help, she would have to be at the behest of pharmaceutical companies ran by men, maintained by men, and all of this. Let's dive deep. And as you can see, it's Day of the Dead. We have a man. He's still a man. He's a zombie, but he's a man. Chances are this zombie is going to be stronger than a woman. So we're just going to state facts here. Stronger than a woman, quicker than a woman in most cases. But most films ignore how fast bodies fall apart when they show the skeletal remains shuffling around looking ridiculous on screen. Now, in this movie, the zombies are fast. So, zombie movies show the idea of the indestructible zombies that don't decay, which makes for the best horror, but worse science. In real life, if you get bit, scratched, or anything like that, you're screwed. And who do men have to run back and protect? Because who always falls in these horror movies? Women. They fall, then the hero has to run back because they're tripping over their heels because they chose to, for some strange reason, keep their heels on during horror movies. It's so crazy. Women always fall. I'm not bashing women, by the way. I'm just saying what we all see. In horror movies, these women fall all the time and they need men for protection. Where are the feminists? Where are these feminists when zombie apocalypses are happening around us? I don't see them. The world is vacant when shit like this happens. Mind you, this is a woman by herself. This is Hollywood script writing right now at its finest. Somehow these women are the heroines in these movies. Somehow. I don't know how, but because of plot armor and Hollywood writing, this is what happens when I think that normally this would be the man. One thing we forget is winter time. And we keep forgetting wildlife. Now, women will constantly say things. The feminists will say things like, men, I'll say things like men protect women, right? I'll say this all the time. I'll say, well, men are the protector class. We provide, protect. The feminists will tell me something. They'll say, well, protect us from what? Other men, haha. And then they'll laugh and kiki and all this stuff. Well, we protect you from the elements. We protect you from nature. We protect you from predators. We protect you from the elements because we provide infrastructure and all this other stuff. The only problem with this is that these zombies have to deal with predation, animal predation. Animals would actually eat these zombies in the wild. They would need to not only protect themselves from zombies, but also animals that men also protect women from as well, too. No! Now, of course, the magic of Hollywood would indicate that women come out on top somehow. So, I mean, this is what would happen. We'd see this happening right now. And coyotes, wolves, bears, wild dogs, and even smaller scavengers like raccoons will feast on slow-moving targets that can't effectively fight back, i.e. your zombies. From these movies, a pack of feral dogs can strip a zombie to bones in hours. And unlike human survivors, animals don't get infected by eating undead flesh because cross-species transmission requires specific viral adaptations. We've seen movies where there's like zombified dogs like Resident Evil, but that's a whole nother thing. These dogs are manufactured. That's a whole different thing. So even if you're like a horror movie file like me, for sure, the Army of the Dead had like a zombie tiger, which raises questions about why more films don't explore infected wildlife. But let's just face it, these animals would be scavenged by wildlife, and actually women need protection from the wildlife that is scavenging these things. Rats would make homes out of these bodies. That's what would definitely be happening. Nobody ever thinks about this in horror movies as well, too. Women need protection, not from zombies, but from wildlife. Because what would happen is wildlife would overgrow into cities eventually. You've ever seen I Am Legend? When Will Smith is walking down the street and the trees and everything else have caved into the windows and wildlife, and it has entered the city, and all this grass and growth has torn up the sidewalks. Nature takes the city back. Women have to protect themselves from the elements. Men do this all the time. They protect them from the elements by working infrastructure jobs, sewage, nuclear, all heating, water, all plumbing, all this stuff. You know, nobody ever really thinks about this, especially, I would say, the feminists. Hey, what's up, Hunting Weeble? We are covering feminists in the days of zombie apocalypse. That's all it's looking. Just think about how convenient it would be just to be a woman watching this right now, not doing anything, not moving. Not very convenient at all, because pretty soon she'd have to worry about wildlife, which men protect women from daily. We have to protect ourselves from wildlife and nature overgrowing itself. She's watching right now as the city's burning, knowing that she may not have the amount of force to combat these male zombies, because think about this. Women have to overcome men when it comes to issues of force, and I don't want to go down that dark path of what they have to protect themselves from. But picture a male zombie. This man already is stronger, bigger than her, faster than her, especially in these movies. Where are the feminists here? A car that was built by a man, maintained by a man, probably her mechanic, and you know the rest. Here she goes. Getaway driver. Let's go. Oh, it's a man. She's running from men. So when women say things like, who do we need to protect ourselves from? You know, and then they'll say other men. Well, these zombies are going to be men as well, too. You have to protect yourselves from these men, too. You're right. I'll even tell the feminists, you're right. These men will turn into zombies and lose their control of their faculties. All they want to do is eat brains or whatever, flesh, whatever it is they move, depending on which horror scenario, zombie apocalypse, or dimension you happen to end up in. So it's all crazy. What was that? Another woman that's not protected by men in the back? Crazy.
Emergency broadcast pure Milwaukee area. If you live in Waukesha County.
Can you help?
Look, hold on. We have a situation where another woman needs protection from another woman. Let's see if she helps out a little bit. Because, you know, feminism, sister code, let's stay together. Let's see what happens.
Church, 22 Robin Lane.
Oh, women are abandoning other women during the zombie apocalypse. Wow. Who'd have thunk? This is crazy.
Stay inside and lock all doors.
You know, a man would have probably let her in. He probably would have did this, but we see what happens in this, even this movie script. The woman was denying the other woman because maybe the sisterhood is extinct when the zombie apocalypse pops off.
If you live in Jefferson County.
Who's my dad?
Ah, here we go. World War Z. Brad Pitt, a male, by the way, is one of these virologists that the world needs. Which is a man, which if you look at the statistics, men run the infrastructure, and a part of this, we talk about science and things like that. Men have the monopoly of this. Not saying that women are ostracized from this, because we have also, not to mention this, but we have a form of DEI, affirmative action, where we have to let women in, even if they're not qualified, because we have quota-based, I would say, entry level into jobs like this. But in this movie, Brad Pitt is a virologist who's helping try to save the world from males, a lot of male zombies. Believe it or not, if you look at the zombies, most of them are men. So women need protection from men, yes, of course, but like I said, in this dimension, from zombified men. Who's going to protect them? I would say the men that aren't zombified, because as you see in the previous clip, a woman isn't protecting another woman. She's leaving her. She left her in the car. Who are the guys with the guns? Men? All men. And don't think I don't notice. There's going to be a lot of weak men in these scenarios. Yes, let's go ahead and just get to that right away. There's going to be weak men as well as weak women. But I guarantee you, if they see somebody like me or, somebody like Relentless RG, my fearless mod in the chat, they're going to feel probably a little bit safer, hoping that they don't turn or get turned.
Wrong way! Wrong way!
Notice, as you will, the pilot is probably male in this helicopter as well, too. And think about this. When women leave the city, like let's say they just abandoned the city, you have to think about things. Tree roots crack through asphalt, vines strangle traffic lights, and buildings collapse under the weight of accumulated plant matter and water damage. Men produce so much as a part of the infrastructure with plumbing and everything like that. These cities wouldn't be just overrun with zombies, but with vegetation and wildlife nature would take cities back. That's definitely what would happen, but let's proceed with this. There's a little girl by herself. This was a crazy scenario because you're going to have kids. These kids are going to need to be protected, right? So men not only protect women, they protect little women and children as well too. The reason why I included this in the clip with the virologist, aka Brad Pitt, in this is because we have to think about this. Something microscopic that kills faster than any zombie ever could. One study suggests this invisible threat could wipe out 60% of survivors before they even encounter the undead. What is that, you say? Hold that thought first, because you need to understand that why walls and guns won't save you. Disease vectors. Men run the monopoly when it comes to the infrastructure, when it comes to the CDC, disease control, science, engineering, all this stuff. Sanitation collapses immediately during apocalypses, and human waste piles up faster than anybody can manage without modern day sewage systems that men handle. Cholera, typhoid, dysentery, and hepatitis spread through contaminated water sources within weeks of infrastructure failure. Mosquitoes breed in standing water from clogged gutters, abandoned swimming pools, transmitting malaria, dengue fever, West Nile virus, all this stuff. Like, we have to think about this. Rats multiply exponentially in urban ruins, carrying plague, leprosy. Without pest control, which men own the monopoly on and work most of these pest control jobs, fleas, ticks become constant companions, spreading typhus and Lyme disease. So without men, these feminists would be screwed. We really have to think about this. Who works mainly pest control jobs? Men. So The Walking Dead occasionally shows characters getting sick, but it treats it as an individual bad luck rather than a public health catastrophe. It would actually be, in reality, survivors living in close quarters without clean water, which men maintain the clean water, soap or antibiotics, which naturally men work most of these jobs when it comes to science, would face epidemic level disease outbreaks that kill most people more than zombies could. I mean, look at Cargo. That's bad. The guy worrying about his daughter's hygiene and nutrition. The film doesn't expand on how the entire cleanliness would be a struggle. And I'm going to get into a really gruesome fact about women, but let's continue. Yeah, totally getting bitten without they're mouth graping this guy, matter of fact. And if you think about this, The Black Death was pretty bad. It killed a third of Europe in 4 years without zombies. We didn't even need zombies to take out all these people. A third of Europe is a massive amount. An apocalypse would trigger multiple plagues simultaneously. If you think zombies are the worst thing to worry about, it would be these plagues that are instigated because of this. Now, here's the twist. Here's the twist. Even if disease doesn't kill you, there's one resource you need that runs out in 72 hours. Not food, something worse. And the way movies ignore this reveals their fundamentally misunderstanding human biology. Water scarcity. Municipal water, which men run these systems through plumbing, clean water sources and systems. Men run this. Think about this. And men run what? Infrastructure. This would be the electricity. Once electricity grids collapse, pumping stations stop. Treatment plants shut down. Pipes lose pressure. All of this leaves taps dry. Rivers and lakes become contaminated with runoff from decaying bodies. Now, the feminists would say, well, I don't need a man in a zombie apocalypse, maybe, but I don't see feminists in these movies at all. Whenever this happens, they don't think about this stuff. If you drink, think about this. Drinking untreated water causes violent gastrointestinal illness that dehydrates you faster than thirst alone. Boiling water actually requires fuel. It requires fuel, which means gathering wood or scavenging propane, which would, of course, expose you to danger. Zombies would see you. If you're going to light a fire, they'll see you. The World War Z clip that I'm showing shows crowds and mobs attacking water trucks. But the film doesn't explore how quickly those resources vanish or how these communities would fight wars over aquifer access, which men maintain and feminists wouldn't talk about. All of this right now would happen in a zombie apocalypse. Think about this. We're gonna go through a little bit more of these clips. Mind you, if you see a wave of zombies piling up like that and running towards you, you're probably going to be cooked. 90% of the all it takes is a scratch, a cut, you're done. Look at this city right now. There's smoke, ruins, and everything else. I'm pretty sure that this would have been a shithole country. This would have been a really big shithole country, even if white settlers or people that came over here tried to help out. It still would have been. I don't really care who this offends. If you think about this, Zombieland, the next movie that we can show, it plays this for laughs. Bill Murray's mansion has a pool with water treated with chlorine that requires careful filtration before consumption, and chemicals degrade over time. The Walking Dead had characters filling containers from streams without addressing how many people would die from cholera or any of these things. 28 days later, which I saw Daniel bring up in the chat, is extremely important. We'll bring this up, but let's talk about 28 weeks later. It shows military-controlled safe zones, which would absolutely prioritize water infrastructure. Who would protect this water infrastructure? Men would. Men would definitely do this. The film doesn't depict the massive engineering effort required to purify and distribute water to thousands of refugees, because what would happen? Look at this city right here. Everybody fleeing this city would be considered a refugee. They would run toward clean water, and they would run toward what? Men. A group of armed militia, a group of men. That's what would definitely be happening. They wouldn't run toward a group of feminists during this whole period of time. That would never happen. That would be actually, quite frankly, ridiculous. Think about this. They're stuck. Now, what does this look like? It looks like a well. Digging wells takes weeks of labor. With proper tools, and shallow wells pull from water tables potentially contaminated by surface runoff. Survivors need approximately 1 gallon per person a day of drinking water alone. More for cooking and hygiene. A group of 10 people needs 70 gallons a week. Every week, forever. This would definitely be happening. You need men running infrastructure, men running all of this. This would definitely be happening. Solving water issues. This creates a huge problem. I mean, think about it. 120 pounds of liquid to transport if you're moving locations. If these people want to move to a different city, they better take their clean water with them because there's no guarantee of water where you're going. And I guarantee you, water scarcity kills silently and absolutely, especially if you're going to have men protect you in these instances. It's not zombies. It's not raiders. It's something way more basic. And one movie almost got it right before chickening out with a happy ending. Food preservation. Refrigeration stops when power grids fail. Who runs the power grid? Men. Meaning all of your frozen food thaws and rots within days. Meat, dairy, produce become biohazards. All of this becomes biohazards in your fridge. So what are you left with? Canned goods. Who run these plants? Mostly men. And here's another thing as we're watching these people run and scream. Looting, everybody says they want to loot grocery stores and do all this. Well, you better get a strong man because you're going to be shoved out of the way if you're a tiny, frail woman. Let's be honest. It's going to be every person for themselves. And these feminists aren't going to be overpowering these men for these resources. That's not what's going to happen. Looting grocery stores provides short-term relief. That's until shelves empty, which happened within weeks, as every survivor in the region has the same idea. Everybody's got the idea of going to the gun shop, but guess who owns the gun? The gun shop owner already has guns. Yeah, good luck, try that. So we're going to Safeway, we're going to Walmart, everywhere else. Well, everybody else had the same idea. Now you have to fight other men for resources, feminists. Good luck with that. Think about this. After that, after food resources runs out because everybody in the region has the same idea to go to grocery stores. Twinkies. Remember Zombieland when they had the Twinkies? They're playing on the reputation for longevity, but even Twinkies expire. A diet of pure sugar preservatives causes malnutrition. You would definitely be hurting after just eating Twinkies for a long period of time, or your pancreas would shut down. You'd eat so many. This would be crazy. Now, this was a crazy scenario. Notice how even good men give up. Some of the best of us give up. Just imagine he's no good to anybody else if you do this. You're just like the women. I do have to make a comment about this because we're going to have men in the zombie apocalypse fail. Train to Busan unfolds over hours, so food isn't an issue here. But the film sequel, Peninsula, shows scavengers 4 years later still finding edible supplies, which strains credibility. These supplies would not be available. I guarantee you that. 4 years later, their resources would be drained. Hunting, because women will say this too. The feminists will say, well, we'll just hunt. Hunting requires ammunition, skill, and prey populations that would actually increase without human predation initially. Have you ever hunted before? I went hunting a long time ago with a man. Good man. We ran across one mule deer. We never got it. It's rare to get something when you're hunting. Now think about feminists who probably don't handle guns, don't make the guns or maintain the ammo. They'd be in trouble. Also, foraging demands botanical knowledge, avoiding poisonous plants, things like this. Growing food, it just requires a whole season. You need a whole season. And, you know, I know feminists are going to be like, well, I know how to garden. Well, if you're gardening, people that know you, and actually these, I forgot what they call them. They're called werewolf survivalists. These are the men that would go pillage your place because they know you're growing food outside of it. If I'm growing food, if you have a bunch of feminists and they're like, we're just going to go back to nature and grow food. They would then see your garden outside your home and know that you live there. Dead giveaway that you live there. All of your goods are pillaged. You're done. You need a man to protect all of that. Nobody ever thinks about this stuff. So you think food scarcity will unite survivors? Wrong. That would definitely not happen. We'd have werewolf packs of men looking for resources, bad men. So you need men to protect you from other men when this happens. Because Here's what actually happens. When resources run low and why human nature makes us more dangerous than any shuffling corpse, that's not even the worst part. The worst part is something hiding in plain sight that no movie's going to acknowledge. Faction warfare is going to happen. Do you think women are going to be on the front lines of faction warfare? I'll tell you what, I'm going to be honest with you. If our faction runs out of resources, I'm going to be honest, if I could take yours, I'm taking it. If it means my future wife and kids surviving, I'm taking your goods. Do you think the feminists will be on the front lines when it comes to this? Resources are finite in a zombie apocalypse or any plague epidemic. Let's play this out to the real world, the stabby jabby that happened. So groups will automatically compete violently for territory, supplies, and control. Nobody ever thinks about this in a zombie apocalypse. The feminists don't want to have this conversation, so that's why. As you can see, this guy's cooked. Feminists would probably say, I'm kind and I want to trust strangers. Well, trusting strangers becomes lethal because betrayal is easier than sharing your food. This would definitely be happening. We need good men protecting women in a zombie apocalypse. We need men, period. I don't care who you are. If you are a feminist and you said, no, I'd be okay gardening with a bunch of sewing circle girls in a garden, we need men, regardless. No matter who you are, because men have to run the infrastructure. Where are you going to get clean drinking water? Oh, men run those facilities as well, too. The power grid. If the power grid, speaking of grid, I was just talking about the grid. What's up, grid? How's it going? Hey, Potato, what's going on, man? We are talking about feminists during the zombie apocalypse and how this would fare well. I don't think they would fare too well. Because water is a viable resource. We need this. Absent water, guess what happens? You just have death. That's going to kill you faster than a zombie would. These slow shuffling monsters. And like I was showing right now, these ones aren't slow. Train to Busan depicts these zombies coming after you and taking away everything else. Your resource could be your loved ones, men or women. You need men around you to protect you. The patriarchy, to use a play on words with Grid saying, the patriarchy is here to save you. So the population would dive into, like I would say, delve into factions. The Walking Dead runs on faction conflict for the entire seasons. If you're thinking about factions, you need factions to survive. Like I said, we're probably going to have wolf packs. And when I say wolf packs, I'm talking about scavenger groups that want to take your resources. Do you think these feminists are going to be on the front lines defending you from these resources? Because everybody's going to raid the grocery store. Everything that's perishable, because electricity's out. These perishable goods like meat, produce, and I would say dairy are going to be biohazards. Probably in like 2 weeks. So guess what you're left with? Canned goods. And everybody else in that city's got the same idea to loot grocery stores. Do you think these feminists are going to be shoving men out of the way to get these goods? No, you're going to need a strong, hardy, good man to get these resources for you. So feminist, I went up you with survival instincts and adaptability with men, because force is at the behest of underneath all of this. So. Notice what he just did right there. Groups need leaders. In a zombie apocalypse, amongst these feminists that would tell you that they'd reign supreme, groups need leaders. Leaders need enforcers, and enforcers need incentives, which usually means allocating resources unequally sometimes if need be. Women are communal. They'll say, well, everybody's getting their fair share. No, men would delegate and say, no, you didn't put in your work. You fell asleep during night shift, endangering all of us. A zombie could have slipped past the gates and you fell asleep. You're not getting rations today. Men would do this. I could see men doing this. You don't get your rations today, maybe tomorrow. Do you think the feminists would do this? Not everybody gets a treat. I know we're running low, but we're going to divide this individual. I know you fell asleep on your post last night. We're going to get you this can real quick. Here's your can of soup. Nope. Men would be like, nope, you didn't put in no effort. You endangered all of us. You're not getting rations until tomorrow. But men would learn real quick to adapt, right? You're more likely to die from a bullet fired by another survivor than from a zombie bite. This would definitely be happening. And I'll tell you this right now. Let's say you join the right faction. and you avoid getting shot, you still face something that kills half of all of the survivors within the first year. And it has nothing to do with violence. In fact, it's so mundane that these movies pretend that it doesn't exist. And when you realize what it is, you'll understand exactly why zombie films are basically fantasy. These are just fantasy. These feminists would talk about how they'd survive the whole time. They'd never understand this. And you know what this is? Chronic illness. Pharmacies get looted. Pharmacies are going to be the first places that get looted as well, too. Within days, medication is going to expire. Within months, depending on the storage conditions. You're talking about everything else from diabetic medication to everything else. Diabetics die without insulin. Asthmatics, they suffocate without inhalers. People on blood pressure medications suffer strokes. This is going to happen. Who maintains the pharmaceutical industry as a whole? Mainly men. Men maintain the pharmaceutical industry. And even when this goes, men have to invent another, I would say, another vector of helping against illnesses. All of this is gonna help. Cancer patients lose access to chemotherapy, but nobody's gonna be worried about them because they're zombies. Mental health medications. If you think about feminists, this generation is on more mental health medication than any other generation preceding us before. So these ones that identify as a man and they're not really men, they're gonna be toast. They're good. Good is gone. These women that want to identify as cats and non-binary, all that shit goes out of the window as soon as the zombie's running after you. I don't care what you want to identify as a woman. Feminists support all of this ideology. All the ideologies go out of the window when you have zombies attacking you. Hey, what's up, crew? Glad to see you guys in the chat. So all of this ideology as far as binary, inclusion, trans, all that goes out of the window when zombies are attacking you. Feminists would definitely support this. Think about this. In The Walking Dead, Herschel loses his legs to an amputation after a bite. Surviving through luck, like let's just say that you have a guy in the military. It has basic knowledge and helps you out. This would never be reality. I don't care how many amputations you need. Fatal infections without antibiotics will save your life. With you have antibiotics, but you need antibiotics no matter what. Men maintain the pharmaceutical industry because there's an infrastructure within that. When it comes to science, aerospace, tech, and all that, men are the monopoly on all that stuff. So women have to plead to men regardless. This is going to happen no matter what. So we have to think about this too. Dawn of the Dead includes a pregnancy scene, a childbirth without medical support. So when we think about this, childbirth without maternal, I would say medical support has a mortality rate of 1 in 100 births, plus high infant mortality happens all the time, let alone a zombie apocalypse. If she's having a baby, she's going to be screaming maybe. Zombies would hear this. You'd be cooked unless you're at the mall or something like that. So if you think about this, we have to also ration resources. Do you think the feminists are going to be rationing resources? You're surrounded by zombies and maybe you're in a bunker. Do you think that this would happen? You need a leader, a strong leader who's going to delegate and not be communal and egalitarian when it comes to supply rationing. That's how this guy's on top of the other guy, not to sound gay here. But think about this. This guy could be somebody that's infected. And we're not even talking about infection. We're talking about chronic illness. We're talking about like a disease you have, or maybe I would say some disorder you have. Everybody that has a chronic condition becomes a ticking time clock. They're going to weigh you down. Now, healthy survivors think they're safe, but there's one biological function that movies erase completely, and it affects half of the population. I'm going to mention this right now. This is probably going to be, let me go ahead and bring this full screen. There's something that zombie movies never bring up in regards to feminists, and feminists will never bring this up. No film addresses this ever, and that erasure tells you everything to know about who's writing these movies and stories. Menstrual hygiene. Periods don't stop during apocalypses, and without access to pads, tampons, or menstrual cups, managing menstruation becomes a daily struggle. Improvising with rags requires water for washing and privacy for changing. Do you think this is going to happen? Feminist. Who invented the tampon? Who invented the tampon? I'm just going to tell you right now, who invented the tampon? So unsanitary menstrual conditions, when we talk about the management, causes infections like toxic shock syndrome. This is going to happen with women. Blood also attracts predators. You don't think zombies or whatever monsters chasing you is going to smell the blood? Most of these predators in horror movies hunt by smell. Hormonal birth control suppresses periods, because women will say this, feminists will say, well, I'm on birth control. It's going to suppress. That's going to run out. Birth control is going to run out in the zombie apocalypse, because remember, like I said, everybody's going to raid the pharmacy first, not just grocery stores. They're going to raid the pharmacy. So your birth control that's staving off your period and menstrual cycles, guess what's going to happen? Menstrual pads and tampons are going to run out. You will no longer have these resources, and you're probably gonna have to ration it and then go to some cloth, which, guess what? Men provide water, clean water, and resources, running the infrastructure. Like I said, when electricity goes out, water is going to stop pumping. So how are you going to clean yourself with a menstrual cycle during a zombie apocalypse? You're going to be an anchor, a weight to the group that is around you. If you have a menstrual cycle, you're cooked. This isn't gonna help at all. No major zombie movies address this. I mean, if you think about this, it's almost like menstrual periods vanished along with civilization in these horror movies. It's almost like it happened. Like, no woman has menstrual cycles. It just ends. World War Z that we showed includes women. Let me bring this back to the stage real quick. World War Z includes women. In survival scenarios without acknowledging basic biology, they never bring up menstrual cycles or periods. Zombieland features Wichita. And I think Woody Harrelson was in that movie. And Little Rock, without ever depicting the logistics they face monthly logistics that they have to deal with, like menstrual cycles, periods, things like this. Train to Busan includes pregnant women. They're acknowledging reproductive biology, but not the menstrual management every other woman deals with. This isn't a small oversight. It's not a small mere oversight at all. Menstruation affects mood, causes cramping that infects mobility, and it also requires supplies that don't exist post-collapse. All this doesn't exist post-collapse. Women they'd fashion cloth pads, maybe, but those need washing with scarce water and soap, which is going to be scarce and rare to find. Or they become infection vectors. This is bad. Now that woman is now a liability to you, and she really needs men around her. Pregnant during apocalypses. This is going to happen. People in isolated quarters need to reproduce. All of this is a medical nightmare. Miscarriages happen 1 in 4 pregnancies without healthcare and without support. They can be fatal. Now she's going to be a zombie, and she's going to be a massive liability to you. Films erase this because it's uncomfortable. They don't want to talk about the maxi pads and periods during these zombie invasions. They want to gloss over this. It's uncomfortable. But if we ignore half of the population's biology, it doesn't make it disappear. It doesn't make this disappear at all. None of this would disappear. It's invisible until somebody in your group suddenly cracks. One movie did show this. Then Hollywood buried it because the truth is way darker than zombies. Mental health trauma, isolation, and constant fear cause PTSD, depression, anxiety disorders, and psychotic breaks. Like I said, big pharma and medication would be gone. What about all these people with these personality disorders and gender dysphoria and all that would go the way they do? It'd be gone. Now, just imagine these men trapped in here, and they're women. Let's just say they're feminist, right? I don't know if you gentlemen know this, but women sync periods when they're in a group together. They'll sync periods, right? Remember, you need to be able to clean yourself. Water's going to be scarce. Soap is going to be scarce. In groups, menstrual syncory means multiple women menstruating simultaneously. All of this compounds resource needs. So if you have all these women menstruating at once, guess what's going to happen? That's more water at once and more resources. So when we think about this, miscarriages do happen. I brought up all that. And all of this is just bad. Just bad. Watching loved ones die or turn, all of this would destroy these feminists' emotional stability. All of this would destroy them. So if you think their mental health and you think they're batshit crazy, these feminists that are on all these meds, watch when their loved ones die. They're going to turn into the destruction of your camp. That's what these women are going to do. They're going to have a breakdown and destroy your camp. Without therapy, or I would say medication, mental health spirals. All of this is going to lead to, I don't want to say I'll say self-deletion, violence, or I would say catatonic withdrawal. You remember the clips that I showed with the women? They don't want to move. They're just standing there. But just like the man, catatonic withdrawal will happen. So like I was saying about the women, communities fracture when members snap under pressure. 28 days later, it does show his disorientation walking from in empty London. All this is early psychological shock. And then the film pivots to action instead of sustaining that emotional horror because they just want to get right to it, which I think is pretty based. Because I think when society collapses and the women are screaming, these women are going to want these men to go to work. Regardless, if there's zombies or whatever infection, some catastrophic events that happens, civil war, something that breaks down in society, women are going to be needing men more than ever. Like I said, all the gender ideology stuff would go out the window. You think about this. The World War Z movie that we just showed includes a scene where the virologist, Brad Pitt, accidentally takes himself out. So if we think about this, the film doesn't follow survivors dealing with long-term trauma. None of these movies do. But these feminists aren't worried about that. They're worried about themselves and now. As the men are going to be worried about loved ones protecting because we're the protectors. I don't think these feminists think about any of these things that I'm bringing up right now. Think about it. The societal collapse. Children that are raised in apocalypses develop attachment disorders without stable caregivers. You can't have loony batshit women that have gender dysphoria raising these kids. Without stable caregivers, they develop this attachment disorder. It's really bad. It's a really bad way of life. It's not bad. There's no winning psychologically. Mental collapse is bad enough. So when you have women that include the LGBTQ community, all these other people that think they're something that they're not, all that does is pile up this mental collapse, even bad for your party that wants to survive the zombie apocalypse. Remember, these people are on a train. Gasoline degrades within 3 to 6 months, turning gummy, it clogs engines. Diesel lasts a little bit longer, but it still breaks down. Ethanol blends fuel separately, I would say, becoming unstable faster. I'm going to diesel tech school and I'm learning a shit ton, but without refining, produce fresh fuel. Who does this? The men do this. Men do this in society no matter what. Now, this movie's Train to Busan. These guys are going to take a train. Who maintains the diesel industry, the fuel industry with ethanol, all this other stuff with diesel? Men do. Without these refineries producing fresh fuel, every vehicle becomes a temporary asset with a ticking clock. Just bad. Like I said, if you've ever seen this movie, all these people need is time because this train isn't saving them. Even then, but it's only buying them time. Good men can buy you time you need to survive. Survivors, I'll say this right now, survivors can't road trip across the country years into the apocalypse because the gas that they siphon from abandoned cars is worthless sludge. Let's talk about the reality. The gas that they would use would be worthless sludge. Who produces fuel and gas? Who produces all this economical fuel? Matter of fact, economics go out the window. It's just survival. Who produces this? Men provide this fuel. We manufacture this. We do oil mining, drilling. These women aren't going to be over there on these offshore oil drills. They're not going to work that. They don't want to produce the oil that's needed for gas. All this is going to break down. But this is the thing, though. All this doesn't explain why survivors in later scenes don't just drive wherever they want. Now, Zombieland features cross-country travel in a Cadillac Escalade, burning through all this fuel. A gas guzzler. Who the hell would take that? Crazy. Like I said, women in horror movies, for the most part, and I'm probably going to sound extremely sexist here, are liabilities. when stuff like this pops off, they're not going to be these badass GI Janes that we see in movies. It's not going to happen. Let's be realistic. I know their heart's going to be pumping, adrenaline's going to be pumping. We've all heard the stories of a woman lifting up a car because there's babies trapped underneath, or babies trapped under a newborn infant, whatever this is. Just imagine if we talk about the male side of this happening. How strong men would be when their adrenaline's pumping. That these men are equipped with weapons. Anything can be a weapon in a man's hand. I understand that anything can be a weapon in a woman's hands, but let's look at the stats. Women are disarmed from firearms 65% of the time. Men, only 11% of the time. Because it takes a lot of strength to have firearms. Now, these men have bats. Oh, these guys are failing miserably. And guess what happens? You're going to have men sacrifice themselves and become martyrs for women, children, and other good men. This is what men do. We've done this since the dawn of time. If a ship was sinking, it was women and kids off in the life rafts and boats as the men sank on dying ships. It's what's being displayed here, even under movie tropes of horror movies.
Get me down!
Oh shit. Oh, so he was the protector and saved himself. See, double duty. And like we were talking about, rounding up to 28 weeks later, where we need the male infrastructure upholding everything, including the patriarchy, to hold society together regardless. This is not a good example. This guy abandoned his family, but I mean, you have to make decisions though too. Oh, this is horrific to even see. Blood, just gut wrenching. Gut wrenching. Wife, kid taken out. Taken out. He had to do what he had to do, I guess. This is just bad. So, and there's one system whose collapse kills faster than anybody else's. And what are we in? January right now, December 30th right now. Turns out it's winter. Winter's deadlier than summer. Nobody's talking about this in horror movies. The power grid collapse. Electrical grids maintained by men require constant human monitoring and fuel inputs to maintain balance between generation and consumption. Without operators, which are men, power plants shut down automatically within hours to days. Coal plants run out of fuel. Nuclear plants enter safe shutdown. Hydroelectric dams continue generating, but without distribution networks, the power goes nowhere. So these women that are on TikTok espousing their feminist ideas, there is not going to be a TikTok anymore. So their ideas are going to be gone with the wind. Within weeks, every light goes out permanently. The renewable resources like solar or wind require maintenance. So before a feminist tells me, well, we have solar power, we have these hydroelectric dams, all of that's going to degrade without replacement parts. And who maintains this? Men do. Men in the patriarchal structure maintain all this stuff. I mean, think about this. The Walking Dead shows characters occasionally using generators for short-term power, which is realistic. It's pretty realistic. But guess what you have to do? You have to actually protect these inputs that we have, like generators. If a guy's going to go check it, you don't want to tell a woman, hey, I checked the power grid outside with these dangerous zombies. You do it this time because that's egalitarianism in action. You're not going to, no feminist is going to want to hear this. Like I said, all this egalitarianism shit goes out of the window once this happens. This is gruesome, by the way, too. Just watching this man just leave behind his wife and kid. I'm assuming that's his wife and kid, by the way. Just all bad. Think about this. This guy is cooked. But guess where he's running to? Probably another society of men who aren't bitten. And think about this. In the Dawn of the Dead series, the mall has power initially running on backup generators, but the film doesn't address the fuel's need to keep generators running or what happens when fuel runs out. None of this talks about this. So I'll even go to the Book of Eli, which isn't a zombie movie, a post-apocalyptic film without zombies. This shows a world decades later after collapse where people have forgotten electricity, which is where zombie worlds would eventually land. Nobody means no refrigerate. Nobody, if we're thinking about this, the power being gone means no refrigeration, no food, no medicine, no electric water pumps, no communication beyond shouting distance, no lighting except for fire, which would attract more zombies, or scavenge batteries. All this requires men. The patriarchy has to run this and maintain this no matter what. This is all bad. So the feminist, if you're a feminist and you're listening to this, how are you going to reconcile the non-refrigeration, no medicine, no electric water pumps, no communication beyond shouting distance, no lighting, and you can't light a fire unless you want every zombie to know where your location is? I mean, how many batteries do you need? You need plenty. And I guarantee these feminists probably used a lot in their vibrators, probably exhausted all their battery resources when it came to all this. You need batteries, feminists. You're going to use them all on your little Mr. Happy, and you won't have any for power, because that's probably all you got. You can't just invent the metalwork or agriculture through the trial and error while fighting zombies. It's not going to happen. So guess who's going to do this? Men are going to have to do this. But here's the final twist that nobody wants to admit. Even if you survive all this, there's one certainty that ends every zombie movie the same way. It's not what you think. It's not about the zombies winning. It's about humanity losing something else entirely. Heating fuel. Without natural gas, pipelines, or electricity maintained and built by men, heating homes requires work and wood, which means chopping trees daily. Are we going to have female lumberjacks all of a sudden sprout out of society somewhere? All of this maintains maintaining fire constantly, and wet wood doesn't burn well. I'll be honest with you. I try to light some wet wood, didn't burn well. And scavenge dry wood in the winter is dangerous. Carbon monoxide from indoor fires kills silently if ventilation is poor, because you want to protect yourself from zombies, which men are going to do this regardless. All this, proper ventilation releases the heat, defeating the purpose. All this defeats the purpose. Well, who's going to have the modern ingenuity to maintain all of this? Men are. So The Walking Dead's I would say the winter episodes exist, but the characters never seem cold. They never struggle from firewood, never face frozen water sources or any of this stuff. It's just unrealistic that would happen. The patriarchy would have to contend and deal with all this in real time, no matter what. The survivors in these movies were inadequate clothing without consequence. And guess what? These feminists are going to want to be like, oh, I can be nude again. I don't need clothes anyways. Fashion was so papa. You're going to need clothes. Clothes protect you from a lot, right? And while we can say we have sewing circle women, feminists, that's probably not going to cut it that much, right? Men are probably going to have to hunt, get pelts, things like this. So the Dawn of the Dead Mall presumably has heating systems that run on natural gas or electricity, but both would fail without men, leaving survivors freezing in a giant unheated building. The road shows a father and son pushing a shopping cart through snow, depicting bleakness accurately, with fires that are only warm. But fire will give you away. And if it does give you away, who's going to protect you, feminists? Who's going to protect you at all? I don't understand this. Wet clothes and cold equals death. It's going to happen regardless. You're going to need fire, but you need people to protect this fire. Who's going to do this? Are the feminists going to do this? You need ammo. Who produces ammo? Men maintain and build guns. We produce ammo pretty well. Are the women going to be doing this? Because ammo runs out. Settlements need chimneys and labor. All this requires all this to survive zombies, disease, the cold, the starvation. Congratulations, but survival isn't the wind in movies protecting us. It isn't. None of this is. What comes next is something worse than death. And only one film has the guts to show this. And remember, somebody had mentioned in the chat cardio. Let me go back to this real quick. Yes, it was my fearless mod, Relentless. If you don't have cardio, you're cooked. Most of these men would have to carry their newborns because the women may fall behind. Just being honest with you. Only one film had the guts to actually talk about this. Technological regression. Who maintains technology? Knowledge dies with specialists. And here's something that no feminist really talks about. Within one generation, nobody remembers how to manufacture antibiotics. Nobody remembers how to refine metal. Nobody remembers how to engineer infrastructure because all of our data and information's on tech. Books even deteriorate. So if you want to get a how-to book on how to build the infrastructure, books deteriorate. And even if it's preserved, technical manuals require base knowledge to interpret, which all of this tech info dies on the internet. These children that are going to be raised in apocalypse, all these apocalypses, they're going to learn survival skills, but not chemistry. They're not going to be learning physics and maybe medicine. Maybe that's a far stretch even then too. Communities are going to be isolated, which you're going to need men to still protect them. This prevents knowledge exchange. So if one isolated community is with another isolated community, they're not going to exchange knowledge because they're in survival mode. That's what's going to happen. So World War Z describes humanity slowly rebuilding, like even in the book. But the film ends ambiguously with a stopgap solution rather than depicting long-term reconstruction. All this is bad. So feminists, once again, if you are listening to this podcast right now, all your tech and all your data on how to fix everything, if you think you're a craftsman or think you know bushcraft or any of that stuff, all of this is going to die to some degree. It's all going to wither away. You're going to need men to restart civilization. So all these G.I. Jane, badass feminist women, good luck to you. If you want to have this mindset about gender dysphoria, bi, tri, all this other transformer, whatever, that's not going to be something you're going to be thinking about. You're not going to be thinking about transitioning when you're thinking about resources, food, fuel, and evading away from the cold, needing heat. All this, like I said, fuel's going to be guck. After like 1 year, fuel's going to be mush. You're not going to use fuel. All these movies showing people driving cross country, men maintain all this. They do. So 28 days later, it concludes with military radio transmissions that promise rescue to people. And who do we hear on this radio? Men maintaining whatever semblances of infrastructure we do have. All of this implies that there's a coordinated recovery, but realistically, governments would be gone. Do you think the government would care about you when they need to save their own asses? They're going to be in their bunkers. Good luck, society. Let's be honest. All of them would say, I wish you well, no matter what. Even like movies like Mad Max, all this depicts humanity centuries later as scavengers fighting over pre-collapse relics. So the women would definitely need to be protected from all these factions and packs. So you can't maintain modern technology, which is maintained by men, without supply chains, education systems, and stable societies. This would never happen. So this is in regards to feminists in this zombie apocalypse scenario that would happen. Once the last person who understands combustion engine dies, that knowledge vanishes unless it's written down and preserved. And most survivors, like feminists, hopefully maybe they'll survive, are too busy not dying to archive all this tech information. 3 generations later, electricity is going to be a myth. Humanity has to start over from scratch. If you enjoyed this, like I did, this is something that I had to address because I hear this all the time. I know Andrew Wilson talked about the zombie apocalypse one time on Twitter or X. He didn't bring this up, but I'm like, no, I got to do a thorough rundown of how feminists would fare with this zombie apocalypse. Let's continue on with this video. You need cardio. If anything happens, we're going to need cardio. And I guarantee you, if there's a man and a woman, he's either dragging her or carrying her. She ain't running from this unless she's like some cross-country athlete or something crazy like that. men surviving in the zombie apocalypse. Damn, this is gruesome. This is bad. And think about this. For this boat to run, it requires fuel, gas, energy. All of this is maintained by men. And these men are relying on resources that other men built and have to maintain. Oh, he's gone. I'd be gone too. Yeah, this is crazy. I don't think so. Just to summarize my whole video, I don't think feminists would do well with the feminist ideology that they have in this zombie apocalypse. Wouldn't fare well at all because, like I said, females menstruate. They do. And who's the one who invented the tampon? Men. But like, let's even throw all that out. Let's throw out the fact that men have invented all this, whatever. In order to clean yourself during menstruation, it requires clean water and soap, which water is going to be scarce in this zombie apocalypse should anything happen. And guess who maintains the water, the infrastructure, the water reserves, all this. These open lakes that you see out here, these pools of water, they would be quickly contaminated with the undead. So you're going to need to filter clean water. And then guess what we need to? We need to protect our water stores. These military compounds would go over and protect these water stores. That's the first thing that would probably happen. They'd protect the reserves, resources, and everything else. There would probably be a check where you have to check yourself in, make sure you don't have bites or any of this stuff before you come in. And guess who's going to be guarding these posts? It's going to be men. It's going to be men. It's going to be built and maintained by men, these guard posts. Because I guarantee you they're going to build cities around these water reserves and try to maintain this. And then guess who's going to have to forage said food and hunt and do all this? They're going to have to send the men to do this. They're not going to send a pack of women to go out there and get elk, because guess what? These women are going to have to fight zombies maybe or something like that, whatever that is. Whatever disease vector is out there running towards you, you're going to have to take that out and then be. So not only this, it's twofold. We have to worry about protecting and preserving self, maintaining infrastructure and culture, which whatever else is left after that is we get to keep, because technology is going to die. And guess what? All these trade schools, people, they're going to have to delve into tradesmen. They're going to have to delve into trades no matter what. Because if you're an engineer, engineering dies with you. All this, unless you write it down or do any of this other stuff, all the knowledge dies. And men have to maintain all this. Women aren't going to be maintaining the infrastructure. Like I said, and I'm just going to do a quick recap. Once the zombie apocalypse hits, everybody's going to have the same idea of going to grocery stores. And guess what's going to happen? They're going to get the perishable items. They're going to get the meats and everything else. After 2 weeks, these perishable items turn into biohazards. So guess what's the most valuable thing? Canned goods. These canned goods, we're going to turn into a trade and bartering society in no time once this happens. And information, like I said, information is going to die. Because these factions are going to be split apart. They're going to be isolated communities. So guess what? They're going to stop sharing information. So this guy who knows how to be a diesel tech and fix the engine that this city needs running, they're going to be less likely to run and go to another city to get that information or get the engineer, because guess what? There's zombie land in between that. So it's like, now we have a deterrent now of information, even more so. So this quadruples. It compounds the situation even more. And I'll go back to even talk about the menstruation, because that's something that nobody ever talks about. Once this happens, these women can become disease vectors. Infection rates increase. And like I said, you put a bunch of women together in an isolated encampment, they're all going to sync periods together, which means that the resources of water are going to happen at once in one big group. It's not going to be like some isolated, oh, Marquisha and then Tana happen to have their period. Mine's due for like 2 weeks. No. They're all going to sync up. And you have to play. So think about this. The feminist is going to be a liability. I'm not saying women in general, but feminists are going to be a liability. In case the zombie apocalypse or whatever catastrophe happens, women that have this mindset of feminism and I don't need no man, they're going to be liabilities regardless. This is inevitable. So whenever I hear feminists talk about all this stuff, they don't think about any of this stuff. Like I said, you're going to have diabetics. You're going to have asthmatics. People, medication, big pharma is going to collapse. All of these pharmacies are going to be raided, probably by men. Mostly, let's be honest, the bigger, stronger sex is going to monopolize the most force to take the most resources. So these feminists are going to have to appeal to men regardless. They're going to have to. Regardless of what happens in whatever scenario, when society breaks down, these feminists are going to have to appeal to men. Because medication is going to be scarce, all this. And I'll even backtrack to the mental illness thing that we have with the gender dysphoria, the LGBTQ, all this other stuff in the fray. These psych meds are going to be gone. They're not going to have medication. So if they're suffering from trauma, 2025 trauma, you better buckle up, sis, and find a good, strong man, because they're going to have to appeal to the patriarchal structure or whatever patriarchy you have at the time. Maybe it's one man. Whenever this zombie apocalypse, if this this fictional thing happen, feminists, you're no longer going to be feminists. That's the whole point of this. All this feminism shit goes out of the window. It honestly does. Regardless of how strong and independent you think you are, we need meds. We need electricity. And electricity, once that shuts off, you're going to have backed up waste in water. That's what's going to happen. Matter of fact, men have so much ingenuity. I know what I would do. Once this happens, like let's say the power grid went out. There's an alien invasion, zombies, something like that would happen. The first thing I would do is I would run my bathtub. I would plug my bathtub and I'd run it full of water. And then I'd take every cup and bowl in my house, fill it with water. Because once the electricity turns off, all this baggage and sewage gets into the system and you're not going to have water. So first thing I do, then I take my house and cover the windows with like black trash bag sheets. And I turn my house into a dead looking house. I would go dark, completely dark, soundproof, and I would sleep with my shoes on. That's one thing that people don't realize. So feminism would teach you comfort, happiness, as long as it's about me. Men don't live in comfort. When shit breaks down and shit hits the fan, guess what I'm going to be doing? I'm going to be sleeping in my shoes. Because if I get up, I don't have time to be putting on shoelaces or any of that stuff. I got to run and save my wife, my kids, whoever it is at the time. I got to do that. I got to get to work, man. Men can't slack when it comes to times like this. Hard times build tough men, resourceful men. Like I'm saying, I'm telling you right now, what I would do in a zombie apocalypse, that's what I would do. Resources first. Screw going to the store to get food because everybody's going to be there. They're going to have the same idea. Water is going to be the first thing that I need. You can survive days without food. Matter of fact, I'm on a fast right now. This is my second day without any food. No food. Because I have to reset my receptors. I'm getting back on stage and getting ready to compete. It's a whole nother thing. But anyways, you can survive without food for a long period of time. You can't survive without water for a long period of time. You can't. So in the age of the apocalypse, of this zombie meltdown that happens, the feminists are going to be nowhere to be found. Feminists are going to be gone. They're going to vacate this ideology. The women are going to be here, but their ideology is going to evaporate. It's going to evaporate. I identify as a man is going to go out of the window. You're going to realize as soon as our nation turns into a third world zombie apocalypse, that patriarchy is needed. Not only is this needed, but this traditional way of life that we've had for a long time gets put back into the system. It's almost like a factory reset to a feminist. Once this happens, factory reset, I need a strong man because I can't be a strong woman cosplaying as a strong man. This is not going to happen. Think about this. All of these things are things that feminists do not talk about. It may be funny for me to say, oh, women have to menstruate, but cramps, blood, zombies, all this other stuff, feral, like let's say it's some animalistic outbreak and they can smell your blood. You're cooked. You're going to have to figure out how to get clean water maintained by men to clean yourself from your menstrual cycles. You're going to have to get a rag and reuse that bitch. You're going to have to do it. And requires clean water and clean resources, which are maintained and built by men. You need this. Nobody ever thinks about these in this zombie epidemic or in these movies I ever see. They gloss over reality as if these systems don't happen with women. And do you think pregnancy rates are going to be limited in these encampments? No, because birth control's out the window. They've already looted all the pharmacy and everything else. All the pharmacy is out the window, maintained by men. Pharmacology, all science, aerospace, all that is gone. So if you're diabetic and you need medication, you're just a ticking clock at that point. It's a wrap. You better be looking for a patriarchy anywhere you could find this if you are a feminist. That's what's going to happen. Regardless of what scenario you're in, what situation, if there's a survival situation and society collapses, you're going to look for a solid patriarchal scenario. In the book of Eli, trust will get you killed. Zombies are probably the last thing you have to worry about. It's a group of other bad men that you need good men to protect from because they're going to rob your resources. This is going to happen. So ammo is going to become scarce. And here's why I'll tell you it's going to become scarce. Let's say I do have a lot of ammo. I don't want to let everybody know that I have ammo. How do I do that? By not firing a shot. Maybe I want to find a way to silently kill my aggressor. Because once I fire a shot, everybody knows that, oh, that guy's got bullets. We should go take his, you see what I'm saying? So it's like, I have a standoff, but I'm risking losing more resources at the same time. So you really have to think about this. We really have to think about this conundrum. Where are the feminists when society falls? They're going to be nowhere. Even if you are feminist, you're going to be former feminist in no time flat. Once you see zombies, factions of people wanting to come take your resources, things like this happen, the feminism goes out the window. Really fast, extremely fast. So scarcity, weapons retention, all this are maintained by men. Let's say you have a home and that home is, and I would say I'd be a bad mofo. If I wanted to take your resources and we were in a zombie apocalypse and I know you had resources, but you said, screw you, I have ammo, I have guns, you're cooked. You know what I would do? This is going to be really filthy for me to say this right now. I burn your house down. So if I was going to die, and I'm telling you, this is the mind of somebody who is a werewolf prepper. That's what, Google werewolf prepper. If you can Google this, Google what a werewolf prepper is. It's an exact term for people that would say, and I'll tell you this right now. I was in an ammo shop or a gun shop. And I told this guy, I was like, man, it'd be cool because I got to, prep to make sure, what if something happens in society, canned goods and all this. And the guy he literally told me this. He said, well, I don't have to worry about getting canned goods or any of that stuff. And I said, you wouldn't? If a grid down scenario happened, you wouldn't have to worry about getting cans or anything like that? He said, no, because I'd be coming for people who did have that stuff. The hairs on the back of my neck literally stood up and I was like, fuck. So I was like, damn. All right. So now I have to worry about these mofos. I really have to worry about them. So if you think about this, these feminists have to worry about that. You need good men around you because there are people like that in the gun shop that I met. He's like, I don't have to worry about canned goods. And I think this was around the stabby jabby time when that happened, because that's why this conversation came up. And he was like, I don't have to worry about any of this stuff. I can just come take your stuff. And I know he was joking, but I was like, oh, that's not really feel like that's kind of serious, half-hearted joke, half serious. And you have to think about this. Werewolf preppers do exist. They're not prepping by saving canned goods or any of the stuff feminist. You feminists out here that think you're going to be G.I. Jane, yeah, you have a whole faction of men that you have to fend yourself off from. Do you think you can do that by yourself in your group of women masquerading as weak men, pseudo men? No, it's not going to happen, man. Like I said, let's go over the stats again. Women get disarmed 65% of the time. When it comes to firearms, right? If a guy grabs your gun and you're tussling with, gone. You just gave him a gun. If I'm 5 feet away from you and I don't, like, let's say that there's a woman and she is me and a guy's 5 feet away from me, if I didn't shoot him, he can get the distance to take my gun away. That can happen. We've done scenarios in my old job where it was like, you have a knife, you have to take this knife away from somebody. Doing this, we did scenarios where we're holding this because you can get this slashed right here. If somebody comes at you with a knife, you can get this slashed all day. You don't want to do this because you have venous cartilage and veins right here. You want to get this slashed right here. You can afford to get this cut up all day. And then if you want to take a knife away from a woman, you go like this. And I'm not telling you guys to endanger women, but I'm telling you, from an aggressor, you come in like this and you want to keep your head protected and you want to be out of the way from this gun. But if they slash this, you now can turn and take their weapon, right? We can then do that. We're literally doing drills like that. I remember right before I left that job. But anyways, yeah, men would be fearless when it comes to taking resources. That's what's going to happen. These feminists, they're going to be fearless when it comes to protecting kids, things like that. But I guarantee you, they know what force looks like. If they see a man who's big and strong and looks like he's been eating, they're going to know, oh, this guy's got resources. Let me downplay this feminism. Yeah, I know. I used to be a feminist. I know you see the buzz cut, the bull ring. I denounced that a long time. That's going to be real quick. Out of the window, real quick. They're going to denounce all of this once this happens. And this whole podcast, I wanted to talk about things that would happen because nobody ever talks about this. They talk about today's scenario, why we need men. Oh, we don't need men because women produce babies by themselves. Oh, you need a man to do that, by the way. But let's just say that we turned this up a notch and this was a zombie apocalypse or a grid down scenario or Book of Eli. Things like this. Society would go to hell in a handbasket real quick. The patriarchy would be needed. All the feminism bullshit, all the gender dysphoria, the LGBTQ crap would go out of the window because we would need to reproduce society. And guess what? 2 men and 2 women can't reproduce society. We need to go back to these old ways. And we'd say, God, you know what? Our encampment only has like 15 people. There's never been a society that we could see as far as the eye could see. We have men that do midnight watch and all this other stuff. We're going to die out as a species, and we're going to have that conversation. I know that we have 4 lesbians right here, but hey, we need kids. And this is a very grim scenario that I'm going to discuss right now. Do you think that the men are just going to be like, yeah, I'm just going to allow society to die? I'm stopping right there. I don't want to say anything before anybody accuses me or clips us out of context. I'm just telling you right now. In order to save society, we have to rely on men. And then you can't have women without men. There's like a hierarchy there, because women, they need to produce kids, but those kids need to be protected. Pregnant women aren't going to be as mobile as men. They need these men for protection, especially in grid down scenarios or an apocalypse scenario. We need men regardless, no matter what. Men are extremely important. So when feminists downplay this and say we don't need men, I'm going to upgrade this and say zombie scenario, grid down scenario. Now, do you need men? Yes, we do. You can deny this. You can deny this reality right now, but we definitely need men regardless, because if shit hits the fan, if this immigration thing gets really bad. And the reason why I said the zombie apocalypse is because we have Somalians that are overrunning our country right now who have the gray alien shaped heads. Probably because of inbreeding. I know I'm saying a lot of offensive shit right now, but those are the new zombies. And guess what happens? Infrastructure changes, everything else. People that live in mud huts, they're not going to industrialize society. They look at what they did to their countries coming over here. So when we talk about the zombie apocalypse, zombies don't industrialize society. They don't do shit. All they do is take. They take all day. And guess what? In order to guard against this, we need the patriarchy. We need strong, good men that know what they're talking about, no matter what. That can maintain infrastructure, keep the grid going, the power grid, keep clean water running, nuclear power, fuel running, because fuel runs out. Fuel turns bad in less than a year. Turns bad in less than a year. Now you got sludge pumping in your car. It's not going to run. So all these unrealistic movies showing zombies running around and then people 3 years later still pumping fuel, that's not a thing. It's not going to happen. You need men to produce fuel. You need men to maintain these cars to run on the road, regardless of what happens. No matter what. We need society running should shit hit the fan, no matter what. And this is something that I'll tell you right now. Regardless of me bringing up menstrual periods and all that, people get sick. People get sick all the time. We're not going to have hospitals. What about all these nurses, these bad boss bitches that work their jobs? They're not going to have hospitals to work in anymore. And guess what? They're not going to be that much of a nurse when medication expires. All this, because remember, in the first days of a zombie apocalypse, people are going to be overrunning pharmacies and taking all the fucking medication. Yeah, you work as a boss babe, as a nurse, but when the zombie apocalypse happens and you don't have resources, how much of a nurse can you be? Basic knowledge, the same as anybody else. Let's be real. And I know a bunch of nurses are going to be pissed off sending me DMs about, you don't know anything about me. You don't know, whatever. Just face it. You're running as an RN from a zombie apocalypse. You need force. You need a big, strong man around you, man. Guarantee you, since the dawn of time, women have always said this. Tall, dark, and handsome. Remember that saying, tall, dark, and handsome? It's because if the guy was tall, he was looked at as a good protector, maybe protecting, because if a man is taller, he can survive, an onslaught of zombies. He can survive an onslaught that wants to decimate your lineage. Even in the past, feudal societies, men protected women and children regardless. This was always a thing. Women weren't on the front lines doing this. It was always men. So when they say tall, dark, and handsome, maybe the guy's been out in the sun. I'm not talking about black people. So he's got a little bit of a tan. So he knows how to forage and hunt. He knows what the wilderness is like. Maybe he's got a tan so dark, right? And then handsome, because she wants her son to have those genes, those good fighting genes, those tall man, strong genes to fight the zombie apocalypse. So even when women utter things like tall, dark, and handsome, this is something that they'll always utter no matter what, because this comes from survival. Even feminists will say this. What's up, Real World Radio? I'm going on a rant right now because we've shown some zombie footage, and I've tried to understand how feminists could probably curtail the zombie invasion in movies. Like, we all watch horror movies. I watch horror movies. Horror is like one of the biggest, my favorite genre by far, matter of fact. And when we see this, it's like they go to a mall in Day of the Dead, and there's running water there, which that's unrealistic because the power grid would come down, and then what runs the water? Electricity. Men have to maintain that. The electrical lights are on. The electric's on. So light bulbs are on, electricity. Men have to maintain that. That would be gone. So the food that they have in the mall would be perishable. Like I said, 2 weeks, it's bio waste. Just bad, man. Just bad. So canned goods are where it's at. So just like if we think about Zombieland, the Twinkies aren't going to make you survive. People are going to be diabetics really quick. You're going to be having some serious malnourished issues from malnourishment. That's what's going to happen. You're going to be severely malnourished. You can't live on Twinkies. I'm a IFBB professional bodybuilder. When it comes to nutrition, we can have a conversation about that. But that's one of the things that's going to slow you down. It's going to impair your judgment if you're extremely malnourished, man. Like I said, and let's say you do turn diabetic because you lived on a diet of Twinkies for a whole month. Well, there's no insulin because medication went out the window. Men have to maintain the pharmaceutical industry no matter what. That's the majority of who maintains the industry. All the medication out of the window. just bad, man. It's all bad shit. You know, it's just, you know, if we think about this, let me grab a coffee and let's start some. Yeah, man. I'm on my second day, matter of fact, on this fast without eating food or anything. I'm trying to reset my receptors and get started again. Had some issues, so that's why I'm doing this fast right now. Sugar free, by the way. I haven't had any carbs, any food, any like solid food in like 2 days, and it's gonna be day 3 tomorrow. I have like bone broth that I'm gonna get, you know, something like that. But anyways, this comes to mind. Like, let's say that we were in a zombie apocalypse. I can survive 3 days without food easily. I diet harder than most people I know. Matter of fact, it's like the one who diets the hardest without dying usually wins the bodybuilding show or a competition. I know it's a very extreme thought to think about, but men, we support these ideals of running towards gunfire, suffering, things like that. So in the advent of a zombie invasion or something happens, you're going to see pussies. It's going to happen. You're going to see weak ass men run. Those aren't the men that I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the men. One good man, I would say, is worth like 4 weak men, because those 4 weak men leave. But that one good man is equivalent to 4 weak men who could probably do something but don't. Men become valuable. As soon as this zombie apocalypse happens, the value of men in society increases. So when people talk about the fairer sex being women and all this, what about the most valuable sex? It's going to be men, regardless. Nobody ever talks about that either. The value of men being looked at in society as far as attraction is going to go up. Maybe Stefan is an ugly guy, right? But this guy's built. You're going to feel safe around him. I can talk about instances where I've seen this gangbanger look like he got out of prison wearing a tank top. Me and my friend Robert were looking at this guy like, how the hell did this fine ass woman get with him? And I thought about it because she feels safe with him. So the value of men would go up really quick when it comes to survival, because for me to survive, I need to get with probably like the strongest, biggest. That's going to happen. Ammo is going to be scarce, like I said. Weapons are going to be scarce because they break down over time unless maintained by men. Ammo needs to be maintained and produced by men still, because women aren't doing it. Women are not in these industries. They're not in these industries like we would presuppose they be, right? It's not going to happen. So anyways, I just wanted to have a quick podcast about that. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and do something real quick. I'm going to allow 15 minutes for, if anybody wants to come up and discuss this topic, they can come up, because this is a nobody ever talks about the zombie apocalypse and feminism. So I was like, oh, let me do this, because this is a really good topic to talk about. These feminists are quick to talk about how today we don't need men. How I talk to these feminists on TikTok all the time. Hell, I just posted a TikTok of angry black women that I just talked to. These women were so pissed, by the way. I was like, whatever. Anyway, I'll be posting more TikTok invasions and dealing with these femtards. But I had to come out with this podcast because I was like, they never really think this through. These feminists never think this through. Who runs the infrastructure? And before we talk about this, an extension of the infrastructure is the pharmacological industry. We come to pharmacy and all this. Medicine. Who mainly runs all that? Because people get sick in zombie apocalypses. You're going to need tampons, all this stuff. Protection from who? Male zombies. How about that? How about I throw that into the mix? You're going to need protection. This is just asinine for them to say this. And before they say, well, what you're proposing is fictional. Yeah, zombies don't exist. Well, we have this Somali invasion that's happening right now. It's happening. It's happening, and we've had this ripoff that's happened, this big scandal that's happening right now. These people that interbreed with each other to produce people with the gray alien-shaped heads, that's who's infiltrating society today. And they are running amok. It's bad. It's really bad. So when I talk about zombies, we could map this onto anything else. And it still applies. Women are going to need men to maintain these traditions, customs, and everything else that they hold dearly, because it's going to be stripped away from us if we allow this to continue. And it will. It's going to continue, no matter what. But anyways, I just had to go ahead and produce this bit of content because I don't think anybody's ever talked about this before. And this is what we were talking about. All bad, man. Just all bad. So I had to go ahead and drop some nuggets of truth to you guys and let you guys know that, hey, these feminists can watch all the movies. They can look at all the Hollywood shit that they want to, gobble it all up where the woman heroine saves the day. That's not reality, man. That's not what's going to happen, man. Not in a million years, unless we can bioengineer women to be stronger than men, bigger than men, and just, it's just force, man. This all appeals to force doctrine, and that's it. And we have to look at reality no matter what, man. That's the way that we're going. We have to live in a realistic time right now because realistically, the Somalians are invading our country. The Muslims are invading our country. Everybody else, there's a foreign invasion right now. If this happened to your own body and you didn't have white blood cells to fight it, guess what happens? Maybe you don't exist anymore, right? So just want to leave you guys with that note. Again, we need men as protectors. So to all the feminists, this whole podcast was for you. Hopefully it was edifying for you feminists as it was for me, and educational, because feminists will quickly tell you how they don't need men. But when shit hits the fan and we have zombies everywhere or societal collapse or even a civil war, and they're not going to be anywhere to be found. And I just had to go through, what was it, the 10 examples that nobody talks about when it comes to all of this. So anyways, that's my time. I want to bid you all adieu, and I appreciate all of you for staying tuned to this podcast. So hopefully all of you guys have a good night. God bless, and Christ is God.